Hello and welcome back to another video. In this one I just want to have a little chat about gear, and more specifically the topic of whether gear matters or not. It's a topic that is constantly being discussed in any of the videos that I have made about gear, and in basically every video that I've made there's different opinions. So I thought I would chime in and share my thoughts and ideas on this topic. And to sum up my opinion on whether gear matters or not, the answer is 100% yes. But I think gear matters in specific ways, and I don't think getting the newest camera or lens or whatever will make you a better photographer. However, I do think some equipment can help you create better work. Or it can help you create work closer to what you have envisioned, and by doing that it makes you feel like you've created better work. But we will now break this down and talk about a few things, with the first one being the looks and feel of your camera. And this is a topic that I feel very passionately about, and I think it's a very strong argument as to why gear matters. Have you ever used a camera or lens that just feels good? For me, that camera would be the Mamiya RZ67 and the lens would be the Miticon 65mm f1.4. Using these two pieces of equipment just makes me feel great. I can use this camera or this lens and create some work that is utterly terrible, but I would still have a good time thanks to using that equipment. And that is a blessing, as even if a shoot didn't go to plan, developing a roll messed up, or I missed focus in some images, I can still have an overall good time because of how the gear makes me feel. However, if I had a camera that was technically brilliant but felt a bit soulless, I can't say that I would feel the same if I ended up getting bad images. And getting gear that you think looks or feels good won't make you a better photographer overnight. However, I do think that it can make you a better photographer in the long run. And that's because you will most likely be using that gear a lot more and improving your skills when you have a camera or a lens or whatever that makes you feel good and you think looks good. And that's purely because you'll just be picking it up more and wanting to use it more. I know many people who have created work over an extended period of time with a specific camera, and the photos are good, but they just really haven't enjoyed the camera. And then they decided to switch to a different camera that just felt better to them, and their photography improved tenfold because they were just shooting so much more and they were enjoying the process more. And this isn't the camera magically making them a better photographer, it's because it's helping them feel more confident and comfortable while shooting or creating work, and just being happier with their images because they're shooting more and improving their skills. But that's my first reason as to why I think gear matters, and we'll just get on to the second one right now. And the second reason as to why I think gear matters is because certain work requires certain gear. Picture this, you're out on a hike in the mountains of North Wales, you see the image that you have been dreaming of, and you go and reach for your camera, but all you have is your phone. Yes, it can definitely take a high quality image, thanks to phone cameras progressing rapidly within the past few years. But that doesn't mean you're better off using a phone to create this work. Obviously, if you only have a phone, then images on that will be better than none at all. But you can get some high quality gear for relatively cheap thanks to the second-hand market. And that gear can help create images that are much higher quality than anything a phone can do. And that's really good if you're going for a high quality landscape where you want tons of detail and you want to pixel peep. And we can even look at this from the other hand of the spectrum, where you want to shoot some fast-paced street photography, but all you have is an 8x10 large format camera. Like, yes, you can technically do it, but if you want to do it properly, you're going to have to get the right gear for your needs. I'm sick of people saying that you can just use any piece of gear to create any type of work ever, and if you want to do it well, then that's just not true. Like, yes, you technically can go and take some 8x10 photos of street photography, and you can use a phone or even like a, 1 megapixel digicam to create some landscape images, but that's just not the best gear to do it with. And I'm sure there are people that are going to get really annoyed by this and say that they take all of their images on their phone and the quality is perfect. And all I really have to say to that is take an image on your phone and then take an image on, just like an average DSLR or mirrorless camera and compare the results. you will see a monumental difference in image quality, depth of field, and lens compression. And I don't know why people praise phone photography so much. Like, yes, phone images can look high quality, but as soon as you actually take a minute to look at them, you realise that they're just nowhere near up to the level of actual cameras yet. Yet for some reason, people act like they are. But before I move on to my next point, I do want to say that having even just a phone camera on you is better than having no camera. And I 100% agree with that point that people are making when it comes to that, but I still can't agree with them when they say that, you know, a phone camera is as high quality as mirrorless or DSLRs or whatever cameras are around today. That's just not true, and you most likely need to get your eyes checked. This next point is very similar to the last one, but differs ever so slightly. And this is that you need specific gear for specific looks. Take this photo for example, or this one, or this one, this one, this one, or just any of these photos here. These were all taken on the Fujifilm GFX 50S and the Mitakon 65mm 1.4, and they were all shot wide open at f1.4. And with the sensor size of the GFX, that 1.4 aperture is actually the equivalent of an f1.2, which is just an extremely large aperture. And that means that if you want to create images that look like this on a full frame sensor, you are going to need to get a lens that can go all the way down to f1.2, and that can become very expensive very fast. But if you have a lens that can only go down to f5.6, then you're just not going to be able to recreate this look, and it's just not possible, like 100%. And this is going to be a topic that people are going to go absolutely feral over, because there's going to be someone that says they can do this on a full frame sensor shooting at f16. But you are not fooling anyone apart from yourself, because it's just not possible. The only way you'd be able to get a look similar to this shooting at f16 would be if you had a absolutely massive large format camera. And that's because of sensor sizes or film sizes, and then apertures being the equivalent of different apertures because of those sensor sizes or film sizes. So for instance, on my large format camera that's back there, I have a 180mm f5.6 lens. But because of the 4 inches by 5 inches film size, that 180mm f5.6 ends up being somewhere around a 50mm, but it ends up being a 1.4-ish. So that would be the equivalent of shooting on a full frame camera using a 50mm f1.4. So this is why specific gear matters for specific looks. If you're wanting to get that super shallow depth of field look, then you're going to have to work out your sensor size and then the equivalent aperture to get that look. So like I've already said, you can't get the same look as these images here when shooting at f5.6, f3.5, f2.8, or even f1.8. You have to get what is essentially a 1.2 equivalent. And don't get mad at me, that's just how it works. But I'm sure some of you in the comments are going to be very annoyed at that. And that brings me to my last point, which I briefly mentioned earlier, which is more expensive gear or newer gear won't make you a better photographer. So don't go out and get the newest gear or the most expensive gear because you think it will make you a better photographer. Just go out and get some gear that makes you feel good and that you have fun using. You should also go out and get gear that matches what you want to shoot. Don't go out and get a 3 megapixel digicam to shoot some high quality landscapes that you want to print big. And if you're wanting to get that shallow depth of field look, don't get a lens that can only go down to f5.6, f3.5, f2.8, whatever on a crop sensor camera. You're just not going to be able to get it. I think the only way you can fake it till you make it with a look like that is getting a lens that is already quite wide and then taking multiple images like of, and you know, if it's a portrait, you know, like the top left, top middle, top right, and then, you know, all in a bunch of different thirds basically, and then stitching them together in Photoshop. I've done that before I had my setup that I do now, and it worked. Kind of, not really. It looked better than my other images, but it doesn't look anything like what I'm creating now. But like I was saying, if you want to get that shallow depth of field look, you're going to have to invest in the gear. You can't get it by using an f5.6 lens on a crop sensor camera. It just won't get the results that you want, and that's the sad truth. And that goes with everything else. If you're wanting to do street photography, get the right gear that suits you. Don't get an 8x10 camera and you want to run around and take photos of people. I mean, you can if you want, but you're going to be wasting a lot of film and you'll be missing focus on most shots. And if you're wanting to create the highest quality landscape photos that you can zoom right into and print massive, don't get a digicam, or don't even get like an older DSLR. I know they're still very good, but you're going to be much better off spending just a bit more money and getting something like a Canon EOS R, which you can get on the secondhand market for very cheap now. That's a 33 megapixel full frame sensor. You'll be fine with that. And also invest in some good glass. That's the main thing about photography that people don't, talk about too much, is the glass matters way more than the actual camera. Anyway, I went on a bit of a tangent there. I'm sure a lot of you have some things to say, and I encourage you to do so down in the comments. I want to know your opinions, and we can have a discussion down there. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.